I'm Tyler Hallowell, and we're here to talk about more of my builds, this time the Faun and the Pale Man from Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth. So these are, well actually this is kind of interesting. The Faun is the first build that I did to really start my bust style. So before then I just kind of been tampering in creatures lately. Well, I guess lately at the time. And this was before Brickworld Lafayette, which was in November of 2014. I think it was just a one-time convention. But Brian invited me to display, and I was like, okay, I'll fill a whole table for you, and then I had absolutely nothing. So I whipped it up like in 2 nights home from school, came home with an idea, and built the Faun and was super happy with it. And I have to give a shout out to Steve Hassenplug, who gave me the second Indiana Jones whip on the forehead, which are a pretty integral part of the character. But yeah, so the Faun was a really fun build, and it allowed me to start just a new style that I wanted to build in. And that scale gave me a lot of freedom. And so I built that at Brickworld Lafayette, and a lot of people seemed to like it, especially on Flickr and such. And it's really what started this whole avalanche of busts that I've done. But yeah, so the Faun is from the Guillermo del Toro movie Pan's Labyrinth, which is I'm not really sure how to describe it, like a fantasy horror type movie that's set in Spain. And it's a really interesting movie in terms of creature design, and I really like Guillermo del Toro overall, just for how he directs and the creature design that he has in movies, and just his overall artistic vision. So I'd really wanted to build something of his for a long time, and the Faun just kind of became a good choice, and I had the pieces for it at the time. And so I came home from IU and was like, okay, I'm going to build the Faun before Brickworld Lafayette, which is 2 days from now. So I just kind of sat down and did it. And, well, I guess I can just talk about overall bust building in this one since it started it. One of the things that I always do is I choose a specific part, and then that determines the scale of the character. Okay. So for the Faun, I knew that if I could get the nose right with the little nostrils, like the whole nose area, if I could do that, I figured, at least in my mind, that I could finish the rest of the Faun.
You could kind of build around that and figure the rest out.
Yeah, I knew that if I could find the scale of that, then I'd be able to scale the rest of the creature to it. So that's probably what took me the longest of the whole Faun, was figuring out just those little face angles there. But after that was done, the build really came together quite quickly. And I think Brian was kind of mad at me when I showed up a few hours later, and I was like, I did it, Brian. I have something. And he was mad at me anyway because I didn't fill my table. But I filled him this time, Brian. So the Faun was really my first bust. And I was really pleased that it was nominated and won Best Creature at Brickworld last year.
Previous to this, what type of build would you usually do if you sat down to build? Was there a typical genre or something you would build in?
Yeah, for a long time I just built minifigure scale stuff, and I really liked fantasy type things. But I'd been moving into creatures, so like the year before for our Virtual Lug collaboration, I built the Bandersnatch for the Wizard of Oz, or not for Wizard of Oz, sorry, for Alice in Wonderland. And that had won Best Creature, and I was like, wow, maybe the scale is something I should stick with. Because that was just a last minute type, we need to fill up space, how about Tyler builds the Bandersnatch? And I accepted that mission, and then I guess people really liked it. So I just been building at a smaller scale or just minifigs, and I just really like the aesthetic of escaping minifigs, and I feel like it brings forth the art aspect of Lego a lot more at this scale. And I also just think it's a nice, because I used to really like art classes and such, and I think this is my escape into like sculpture now. I no longer have to take art classes or anything because I have Lego to allow me to do that.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Kind of your artistic outlet a little bit there.
Yes.
So what about the Pale Man then?
So the Pale Man is another character from Pan's Labyrinth, and it's one of the antagonists that the girl who's, what is her name? Okay, it's unimportant. But that the female protagonist has to overcome during the movie. So the Pale Man's really creepy, and he has his eyes in his hands, which, as you can tell, is pretty horrifying. And he just, eats children, which I know great. I swear that this doesn't reflect on me at all. But anyway, so the Pale Man's just a evil, creepy bad guy in the movie. And I knew that the Faun should have a buddy, just because, all busts should have buddies. Yeah. So I wanted to make the Pale Man, and it was a lot of fun. And I guess since I talked about it for the Faun, for him the part that really determined the scale, besides the Faun, because I knew that I wanted the two to be in scale, was the mouth with the teeth, which... So once I figured out how to do the teeth at a scale that I liked and that I felt were creepy enough, then the rest of the bust was able to come together pretty well. But overall, I think they're a really good pair, and they're just... I'll probably keep those two together for a long time, because I just really like the movie a lot, and the Faun was the first one, and then if I keep the Faun together, I just tell myself that I have to keep the Pale Man together, and then I get caught in the trap of running out of shelves in my room. But I'm sure we've all been there in the Lego hobby, just not wanting to take things apart. So
they go well together, and it's kind of the, you know, like you said, the inspiration for a lot of these other builds you've done here, so that's really awesome. That turned out great, and you got the Best Creature Award at Brickworld 2014, so that's even cooler.